Bienvenue tout le monde. On va commencer avec la déclaration des reconnaissances des territoires traditionnels. Comme nous ne sommes pas tous réunis en un même lieu, nous sommes conscients que cette reconnaissance des territoires ne s'applique peut-être pas au territoire sur lequel vous vous trouvez actuellement. Si c'est le cas, nous vous demandons de prendre la responsabilité de reconnaître les territoires traditionnels sur lesquels vous vous trouvez et les titulaires actuels du traité. Nous reconnaissons que de nombreuses nations autochtones ont avec les territoires sur lesquels les campus de l'Université York sont situés des relations de longue date qui précèdent l'établissement de l'Université York. L'Université York reconnaît sa présence sur le territoire traditionnel de nombreuses nations autochtones. La région, connue comme Takaronto, a été préservée par la nation Anishinaabeg, la Confédération Haudenosaunee, les Huron-Wendat et les Métis. Elle est désormais le foyer d'un grand nombre de peuples autochtones. Nous reconnaissons les titulaires actuels du traité, la première nation des Mississauga de Crédit. Ce territoire est soumis au traité de la ceinture Wampum, Dish with One Spoon, entente définissant le partage et la préservation pacifique de la région des Grands Lacs. Donc, bonjour encore tout le monde. Merci d'être avec nous. Si vous avez une question, vous avez besoin de quelque chose, s'il vous plaît, utilisez le chat. Notre équipe est à l'écoute si vous avez besoin de quelque chose. So thank you, everyone. If you have a question or you're having a technical issue, please use the chat. We're going to kick off tonight with a poll question. Donc, merci encore. Donc, la première question, it should be on your screen now, the first question. Est-ce que c'est la première fois que vous assistez à un événement en ligne mettant en vedette des étudiants de Glendon? Is this the first time you're attending a virtual event featuring Glendon students? Thank you, everyone who's responding. I see your answers coming in. And we'll just give everyone another second or two, and then we'll share the results. It's great. I can see everyone is in the room. So far, no issues coming up on the technical side. Great. So let's share the results. Looks like this is something that everyone's going to enjoy this evening. So that's great. Merci beaucoup. And there we go. Perfect. So it's with great pleasure now that I will introduce Principal par intérim, Ian Roberge. Bienvenue, Ian, et merci.
Merci, Mireille. Bonsoir à tous. Pour tous les anciens qui sont avec nous ce soir, bienvenue chez vous. C'est un plaisir de vous retrouver. À tous et chacun sur cet appel, merci d'être là. You know, we're in the middle of November. That already is a bit of a bleak month. It's certainly a very busy month when you work and live in a university. Certainly is for faculty members, for staff, for students. And then you add that we're in the middle of a pandemic and it's even a tad heavier. So tonight we thought what we'd do is expand on the nice weather that we've had over the last few days and provide you with some real sunshine. What you're about to hear, we hope, we expect will be inspiring to you, and we hope and we expect that you will really get something out of it in terms of learning about our students, what they provide, the way in which they're change makers, really what they are currently contributing to the Glendon community and really to society at large. We are extremely proud of them, and we are extremely proud to have the opportunity to have them on this call and to get them to speak with you tonight and to answer some of your questions. Alors, merci à tous d'être là. Je vais donc profiter de l'occasion pour présenter nos trois étudiants, pardon. Premièrement, j'aimerais vous présenter, and again, this is where, now I'm back on script. Mireille's always worry I'm off script. Now I'm back on script. We have three wonderful students that I'm really proud to present to you. First of all, Anna Kraljević, third year double major French and Canadian Studies and concurrent education program. She's also doing a certificate in Portuguese. Many of you, if you're currently working on the Glendon campus, you'll likely know Anna, i.e. if we were on campus, you'd turn your head around and she'd be there. She literally is everywhere. Jay Patel, fourth year history and English, also concurrent education program. Jay, I remember from his very first year serving on committees already of faculty council and just getting really engaged. Et finalement, très heureux d'avoir avec nous Darlene Nouemsi, quatrième année du double diplôme en études internationales et en administration des affaires avec EM Lyon, qui à sa façon, par l'entremise du Glendon African Networks, fait une énorme différence sur notre campus et y travaille extrêmement fort. À nos trois étudiants, Anna, Jay et Darlene, bienvenue. Et je me répète, il nous fait plaisir de vous avoir avec nous pour cet événement. So we'll start with question one, and question one goes to Anna and Jay. Anna and Jay, I assume you're there. Yes, you are. What inspired you to give back as a Glendon student? Is someone within the Glendon community an inspiration to you? Can you share the ways in which you give back? Which roles? Why? How? Please speak to that question. Merci beaucoup. On va commencer avec Anna.
Hi, everyone. My name is Anna. And Ian, allow me to first extend my gratitude to you for moderating this panel discussion this evening and for your very intriguing introductory question. You know, Ian, even though I'm not a political science student myself, I'm actually very passionate about politics in general. So let me provide you with a bit of a contextual comparison here in respect to the vitality of student engagement, in my opinion. So, just like participation in Canadian society is essential in the process of upholding our national democratic values, student engagement in and of itself is an essential part of the backbone of any academic institution. Student engagement is incredibly powerful because, you know, it is by encouraging students to mobilize and activate for particular causes that they are passionate about that, you know, we finally reach a point where we are able to at least slightly change the status quo and to really reevaluate the significant role that youth play in positions of incredible leadership in our society, positions that are oftentimes still unfortunately undermined by the wider public. What inspired me to give back as a Glendon student is actually quite simple. It was the possibility of being able to actively contribute to a movement at Glendon, a movement that would see more and more students feel empowered to actually assume leadership roles in our community, making the deliberate effort, you know, to be engaged both on and off campus. It also allowed me to meet so many other inspiring students that are working on quite amazing things like Jay and Darlene, and that I would have most likely not been able to meet had it not been for my active engagement. So I have been very fortunate to gain numerous friendships along the way as well. In terms of inspiration, I see the Glendon community as being a beacon of inspiration in and of itself. However, there is a special someone that definitely does stick out and that I actually immediately thought of when you asked me that question. And that incredible inspiration to me is actually in the room and was and continues to be Professor Coates, or simply Colin, as I like to call him. I was fortunate enough to be educated by Colin during my first year at Glendon, and it was actually his course in the academic discipline of Canadian Studies that actually led me to change my major. So I think that says a lot, quite a lot about Colin's impact on me in the classroom. Now, I am someone who, you probably know, I enjoy questioning the world, and I find many questions to ask about, you know, after every single lecture. And Colin always encouraged this sense of intellectual development and curiosity in me. And I remember distinctively taking advantage of his office hours and occupying way more of his precious time than I probably should have. You know, our discussions began to broaden over time, and we quickly realized that we lived in the same neighborhood. I always enjoyed speaking to Colin about Canadian politics and, you know, Canadian society in particular, because he always provided me with, you know, such a deep level of insight. And to be honest, none of my friends are really interested in discussing anything to do with political discourse during this time. So it was really nice to have Colin there, always willing to listen and always willing to engage in dialogue with me. After some time, I began to share my experiences with him, including working for our member of provincial parliament straight out of high school. And he really motivated me to, be engaged in student governance. And that is when I decided to serve on Glendon Student Caucus with other student changemakers, such as Jay, and advocate for the best interests of our student population, which, let me tell you, is a real honor to be able to do. It is greatly due to Colin's encouragement and inspiration that I have assumed various positions in student governance over the past 2 years. And, he's been there from the very beginning. So I know, Colin, you're in the room. I can't see you, but let me thank you once again, sincerely, for your impact that you've had throughout my university career so far and that you're continuing to have. So, Ian, I would just like to conclude my remarks by addressing a particular point that is often forgotten when we're discussing student engagement. Which is that it is very difficult to be and to remain engaged. Students are required to exemplify, a significant amount of commitment, motivation, and self-determination, while oftentimes balancing a full course load. There is an indirect sense of pressure that is felt by student leaders to always be on top of their game, and it can oftentimes feel as if there is very little room to make mistakes. This is a sense of pressure that we must understand, that we must acknowledge, and student leaders willfully take on this sense of pressure because they know that they have the incredible power to inspire future leaders along their way, which in and of itself for me is quite remarkable. And it goes back to that genesis of a movement of engaging students that I referred to at the beginning of my response. And just to conclude, I would like to just state a particular quote by Nelson Mandela that I've always kept very close to my heart, which is that education is the most powerful weapon, which you can use to change the world. So always remember that. There's an impressive level of knowledge acquired while being engaged, and this is a type of knowledge that definitely cannot be taken for granted. So thank you very much, and it's a real honor to be able to serve on this panel.
Merci, Anna, and one day we'll discuss why exactly you're not in political science, as you noted early on. Jay, you're next.
Great. So just a quick hello to everybody. My name is Jay Patel, and as Ian introduced, I am a double major in English and History and Con Ed. So basically, as a fourth year student, well, let's take it back just a few years. So going back to my high school career, as I like to call it, I was always super involved in the campus I was always involved in school, especially in terms of things like student activity council, athletic council, eco team, and everything else that comes along with it. But I didn't necessarily see that sort of impact that comes across student engagement, student involvement, and student activism in the high school level, just because there were a lot of, I hate saying it, but restrictions that kind of come about when you're a high school student leader, just because there's a lot of people that you have to report up to that may or may not like your ideas. So coming into Glendon, I was able to run for first year representative. And through that role, I was able to learn a lot about Glendon, which at that time, Glendon is this remarkable, far-fetched, what is Glendon? I don't know. And I feel like it was after that first month of just understanding what Glendon is, where it turned into this awkward place where I studied to a place that I call home, as cheesy as it may be. So especially going through that first year of university, where I was able to meet with a lot of the students, the professors, and kind of just learning about how Glendon runs as a whole, I was able to figure out and learn more about how exactly, or how I want to make an impact on this campus. There's a saying in the Indo-Caribbean community where they say they can take your phone, they can take your wallet, they can take your laptop, but they can't take your education away from you. And as cheesy as it may be, it's a quote that really has resonated with me, just because as someone who does want to become a future educator, the importance of education makes or breaks an individual, in my personal opinion. And it is through these extracurriculars and through a lot of these opportunities where you're also able to learn outside of the classroom. Growing up telling people that I wanted to become a teacher, it wasn't necessarily viewed favorably upon, just because it's like, okay, you're gonna have to mark like 40 essays, you're gonna have to make all of these tests, and all these misconceptions about what it is to be an educator. But it's through a lot of these extracurricular opportunities that I was able to kind of change the notion of what is education and how it is to teach individuals. But kind of going back to the question of, is someone within the Glendon community an inspiration to you? Like Anna, my inspiration is actually on the call right now, Audrey PA. She is I call her A-part. I know she's the Associate Vice Principal Academic. I don't know if I said that right, but y'all know who she is. She's been really essential in terms of me going into the certificate of public history, but also trying to find more and innovative ways to have history students get involved in the community, but also learn about what is history. Like I said, like I know history, a lot of people are like, okay, it's the past, whatever's done is done. There are a lot of dates and such, but when you truly engage in the actual subject itself and taking the courses and going through all those opportunities, you're able to learn that history may be the past, but it's the saying of if you don't study history, you're doomed to repeat it. And it's through those very cheesy quotes where I'm able to kind of make those connections to my own life, where I'm able to say, hey, I may be learning about history from like what, the 1800s, 1900s, and so on, but I'm also able to see how those changes in those years were able to help me, or I guess impacting society as a whole in the 21st century, and how we as a society have grown, we have progressive we've become, and kind of how much we've kind of become this global community, even in a place just like Glendon, where we have so many people of so many diverse backgrounds and so many different religions, and educational backgrounds even, where we're all able to get together on the same platform and have these conversations about, well, what next? What do we do in order to make sure that we leave the earth a better place than what we inherited? Sorry, I have a lot of cheesy quotes that kind of go into this, but last but not least, can you share the ways in which you give back and what roles that I kind of take part in? So I am the vice president clubs for the Glendon College Student Union. So I'm able to have these conversations with a lot of students who are, in fact, trying to get involved in many different ways, whether it's through creating a department student associations, whether it's, for example, there's a poli-sci students association, history students association, or there's a lot of other clubs, which I know Darlene will talk about, such as the Glendon African Network, and there's Piece by Piece and a lot more. And it's because of these clubs that we are able to create this sort of Glendon community. Very honestly, as vice president clubs, my goal is to make sure that that community stays strong. And even in the middle of a pandemic, a lot of people would be surprised to hear, we've actually had a growth of club enrollment and club involvement. So we've actually had, I think, about 5 new clubs that we're able to start this year. And we are able to put in the rules, regulations, and I guess the supports needed in place in order to help ensure that these students are able to successfully pull off events. As well as being VP clubs of GCSU, I'm also the chair of Student Caucus. So I actually recognize a lot of professors here who I was able to work with through a lot of the committee work that we've been able to do. And being a Glendon student, I like to say that I live the best of both worlds, where I'm able to work on clubs at Kiel Campus and Glendon. So I'm involved in the South Asian community specifically a lot in the Kiel Campus. So I'm able to kind of bring towards those communities back to our campuses to ensure that, you know, that campus community is staying alive and relevant even in the middle of a pandemic. So yeah, that's me.
Merci, Jay. A couple of things. First, we like cheesy. Absolutely nothing wrong with cheesy. Cheesy's good. And I didn't know that we had an increase in club and in student engagement in that way. And that's quite positive and that's quite good to hear. Ça fait, écoutez, on a besoin d'entendre un peu Darlene également. Donc, on passe à la question 2. Cette fois-ci, la question est dirigée à Darlene et à Anna. Comment la pandémie change-t-elle votre expérience en tant qu'étudiante et en tant que chef de file? Donnez-vous à la communauté de manière différente cette année? Darlene, je te laisse répondre.
Tout d'abord, bonjour à tout le monde. I would like to express how grateful I'm happy to be here. Pour moi, la pandémie, elle a changé beaucoup de choses. 2020 est une année qui va marquer en fait l'histoire tout simplement parce que ça marque en fait un tournant sur plein de points. En tant qu'étudiante, je vais pas vous mentir, it's hard. C'est vraiment très très dur. I'm still trying to find a balance. Mais j'aime à me dire que l'année 2020, où en fait cette année académique ne peut être que ce que je vais en faire. Et le privilège que j'ai en fait en tant que leader, c'est de pouvoir être motivée par mes responsabilités, donc auprès de la communauté de Glendon, et aussi les attentes en fait que tout le monde a, parce qu'en tant qu'étudiante, je sais un petit peu quelles sont les difficultés d'avoir une expérience universitaire différente. Donc je pense à la fois à mes camarades qui ont connu l'expérience traditionnelle de Glendon, de la communauté de Glendon, et qui maintenant sont un peu nostalgiques, mais aussi aux nouveaux étudiants qui, pour la première fois, découvrent un petit peu l'expérience universitaire et
toute leur aventure universitaire. Et pour ces raisons-là, je suis motivée en tant que leader de faire de mon mieux pour pouvoir justement consolider ce sentiment d'unité de communauté que j'ai connu à Glendon quand je suis arrivée. Et je pense qu'il fait partie intégrale de notre expérience en tant qu'étudiant de Glendon, puisque c'est qu'en étudiant de Glendon, il y a une différence remarquable sur ce petit foyer. J'aime appeler ça un petit cocon. Déjà sur le fait que le campus soit petit, mais grâce à des personnes comme Jay qui justement contribuent activement à ce que chaque individu se sente confortable et à l'aise et qu'ils puissent avoir leur voix qui soit entendue. Personnellement, je me dis que je ne devais en fait changer la façon dont je donnais à la communauté. Et c'est ce que j'essaie de faire donc, en tant que présidente de Glendon African Network cette année, puisque maintenant on a un gros challenge donc, qui est de pouvoir garder la communauté active, donc bien que les choses soient en ligne. Et un des objectifs, donc pouvoir garder ce sentiment de communauté et d'unité, c'est de pouvoir collaborer avec des clubs, de pouvoir travailler main dans la main avec le DCSU également, que ce soit sur le campus donc, de Glendon ou le campus de Kiel aussi, donc pouvoir aussi pallier à ces petites différences qu'il peut y avoir dans les deux communautés et servir au mieux en fait pas les membres de la communauté de Glendon parce qu'au final, en tant que leader, c'est eux notre priorité. Et je pense qu'en fait, le leadership et la créativité sont des éléments qui sont très nécessaires aujourd'hui, plus que jamais avec la pandémie. Et c'est important de garder la tête froide, de ne pas être trop overwhelmed avec notre stress en tant qu'étudiant et de pouvoir voir en fait sur le long terme et un peu plus haut que notre petit souci d'étudiant.
Merci, Darlene. Et en effet, je pense que tout le monde comprend que du point de vue étudiant, en effet, il y a des défis. C'est pas facile, comme tu l'as mentionné. Donc, très bien entendu. Anna, you're next.
Oui, merci à vous, Ian, pour la question. Et c'est une bonne occasion de pratiquer mon niveau. Cette pandémie a vraiment changé la manière dont je perçois mon niveau d'engagement en tant qu'étudiante à Glendon cette année, mais aussi en tant que citoyen du monde. Il faut dire que nous vivons dans une époque sans précédent et que cette pandémie a vraiment souligné l'importance du contact social dans nos vies en tant qu'êtres humains. J'ai rendu compte très rapidement que cette pandémie suscitera un grand sens d'isolation dans ma communauté, particulièrement chez les personnes plus âgées. Mais je ne savais pas vraiment l'approche la plus efficace que je devrais poursuivre pour pouvoir les aider. Heureusement, j'ai commencé à m'engager dans un groupe de soutien dans mon quartier et c'était vraiment quelque chose de super, c'était incroyable. Notre groupe continue à rester active avec moi en tant qu'administratrice et nous aidons maintenant presque 8 membres de notre communauté avec beaucoup de besoins spécifiques comme des appels amicaux hebdomadaires par exemple. La création de ce groupe de soutien était l'idée de ma voisine que je sais est en train de m'écouter maintenant, donc un grand merci à vous aussi. Et ce groupe, il s'agit d'un effort collectif, bien sûr, qui continue à avoir beaucoup d'influences positives dans notre communauté. Donc, c'est juste une partie de mon engagement dont je suis vraiment fière. Et maintenant, pendant cette année scolaire, je fais aussi partie de la zone GL en tant que par-mentor. Donc, mon mandat dans cette position, c'est très simple, c'est de faire de mon mieux pour assurer que les étudiants et les étudiantes en première année à Glendon peuvent avoir une belle expérience, ce qui n'est pas vraiment facile à accomplir quand nous sommes obligés à mener nos vies d'une façon virtuelle. Donc, j'ai passé beaucoup de temps à y réfléchir. Comment est-ce que je peux les encourager à être engagés pendant ce temps de grande incertitude? Et j'ai trouvé qu'il n'avait pas une réponse simple à cette question-là. Et j'ai décidé que la chose la plus importante que je pourrais faire, c'est d'être engagée moi-même et de les inspirer dans cette manière-là. Donc, j'ai choisi d'assumer la position de capitaine d'une dans les jours du tournoi Glendon cette année, ce qui est une nouvelle initiative qui donne l'occasion à la population étudiante et la motive à être engagée virtuellement pendant toute l'année en jouant des jeux et en participant dans beaucoup d'activités avec la grande possibilité de gagner des prix. Moi, j'espère que ce tournoi peut contribuer à un grand sens de communauté virtuelle à Glendon et je suis vraiment chanceuse de pouvoir travailler sur cette initiative avec des personnes vraiment inspirantes comme Megan Kay et Eric Mézin que je sais est là. Bonjour Eric. Je remercie toutes les personnes qui ont travaillé très fort et qui ont fait de leur mieux pour assurer que cette belle initiative devienne une réalité à Glendon. En outre, je travaille maintenant aussi sur un projet de recherche à Glendon qui touche sur le phénomène de l'utilisation de la langue neutre et inclusive en français. Et je suis aussi une ambassadeur, je ne sais pas prononcer ce mot, c'est comme un ambassadrice de la présidente de York. Et hors de York, je fais partie du conseil jeunesse de l'Ontario, où notre mandat, c'est aussi vraiment simple, c'est d'avancer un agenda qui est plus progressif et qui est créé uniquement par les personnes jeunes en Ontario. Et j'espère aussi avoir l'occasion d'engager dans le conseil jeunesse du Premier ministre cette année. Donc, j'attends des nouvelles. Et bien sûr, c'est beaucoup d'engagement, mais je crois que c'est ces circonstances dans lesquelles nous nous trouvons qui m'ont vraiment motivée à devenir encore plus engagée, évidemment, dans une façon virtuelle. Donc, oui, merci beaucoup encore pour la question.
Merci beaucoup, Anna. Si j'avais su que tu parlais aussi bien français, bien en fait, maintenant que je le sais, c'est terminé. Je ne fais que de parler qu'en français à l'avenir, à chaque question, chaque correspondance. Our next question for Jay and Darlene. How have social movements like Black Lives Matter or Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls or LGBTQ2 rights advocacy inspired you? Comment les mouvements sociaux, tels que je viens de les mentionner, vous ont-ils inspiré? Have these social movements changed your area of impact or interest in how to make change? We will start with Jay.
Alrighty. So I think I have to go back to my high school days just because, as I said before, when you're involved in high school, the clubs are very straightforward. Like athletic council deals with athletics, eco team deals with everything to do with saving the earth. And I understood why those things were in place just to help, students learn more about activism and how they can kind of reach it. But one thing that I've noticed getting into university is understanding the word intersectionality. And understanding that how all of these issues that may seem apart from each other are actually intertwined in their own specific ways. And especially with social movements like Black Lives Matter and missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. As someone I was born and raised in Toronto, but my parents immigrated from India about 30 years ago, and having these conversations with my parents, talking about, why are these movements so important? What is the need for all of this? And once again, cheesy quote, change starts from home. And a lot of times what I've noticed with student leaders is that, they say, okay, well, I am not racist, or this doesn't happen, or I don't do this. But they forget that there's still that community around them that they can still impact that change around. So it's through these social movements and everything that goes on, whether on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, I'm able to remind myself not only the privilege that I have as an individual, but also reminds me that there's still a lot of work to be done. Even with all the progress that we've made and all the great things that we've been able to accomplish over all of these years, we still need to keep on going. And it's with these social movements and with all these positions on Glendon Campus that you're able to realize that, hey, all of these resources exist and you have the positions that you need in order to kind of take on and create the change that you wish to see. So in terms of social movements changing my personal vision, not really, because they were always part of my platform, to be honest, but I think it's a humbling reminder that, hey, you can't just sit down and be like, okay, yeah, we're done, or I've made the change that I wanted to see. That movement is still going. There's still a lot of work to be done. So, yeah.
Merci, Jay. And I love that part of what you've just said, the work around us in the community, just not our own single action, but the way we do influence others. And I think that's that is a great reminder. Darlene?
For me, it has really changed a lot. As I said earlier, I feel like 2020 is the year of big change when it comes to politically, socially, even for the environment. The past and current social movements such as Black Lives Matter, but also missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, but also NSARS, whatever was happening in Africa, have really inspired me as an individual, as a leader as well. I mean, we're in this place. This generation is the generation to change everything. As a person of color, as a Black person, as a woman, as an African as well, there are different things that I can relate to. And cette intersectionnalité-là, en fait, est très importante pour moi de m'engager sur différentes choses. Et je trouve que maintenant, moi, personnellement, avec ce qui s'est passé, j'ai dû vraiment changer la façon dont je vois les choses en passant par l'éducation. On l'a tous les trois mentionné, l'éducation, c'est la clé, l'éducation, en fait, c'est le pouvoir. Et en m'éduquant sur les défis de ma communauté, mais aussi des communautés que je ne connais pas, ça me permet donc moi d'être une meilleure personne pour servir ma propre communauté, mais aussi pour servir l'ensemble en fait des communautés, parce qu'au final, c'est juste une histoire de basic human rights et je ne peux pas attendre de certaines personnes de se rallier aux soucis de ma communauté ou à certains soucis en particulier si moi-même je ne fais pas l'effort ou si moi-même je ne lead pas by example et je mets de l'avant ma volonté, moi, d'être inspirée et d'être éduquée sur ces questions-là. Personnellement, je trouve également que là, ça nous a aussi permis de comprendre que comme Jay l'expliquait, c'est que c'est des soucis, c'est des problèmes en fait qui ont existé, qui existent et en fait qui ne sont pas temporaires, dont nos actions doivent être portées sur le long terme et vraiment prendre des décisions en fait qui vont impacter non seulement le moment présent, mais aussi les générations à futur, pour pouvoir en fait faire en sorte que celles qui arrivent n'ont pas à essayer de rattraper les erreurs du passé, mais maintenant à essayer d'améliorer le présent qu'ils ont et le futur aussi qu'ils peuvent offrir à leurs descendants. Donc, c'est comme ça que moi, personnellement, j'ai été impactée par les mouvements sociaux qui se sont déroulés ces derniers mois. Et ça m'a permis aussi de recentrer l'objectif que j'ai donc, en tant que présidente d'un Black Student Association. Donc, pour servir la communauté que je sers, mais également pour être ouverte à d'autres communautés, puisqu'en tant qu'Européenne, par exemple, je ne connais pas grand-chose des peuples indigènes, donc j'ai dû m'éduquer là-dessus, mais également, petite histoire personnelle, j'ai dû apprendre beaucoup sur la communauté des Asiatiques du Sud, parce que c'est quelque chose que je ne connais pas non plus, et voir en fait à quel point chaque communauté, aussi typique qu'elle soit, on a des points communs, on a en fait des petites batailles communes, et à la fin, tout ce qu'on veut, c'est la même chose, c'est d'avoir un monde beaucoup plus équitable et faire en sorte que les générations qui viennent avant nous aient les mêmes chances que nous, en tout cas, on a pu vivre aujourd'hui.
Merci, Darlene. Et en effet, il y a beaucoup de points qui rejoignent ceux de Jay ici, cette idée de modèle, mais de rejoindre dans la communauté. J'aime beaucoup ton dernier commentaire sur cette volonté d'apprendre, cette curiosité-là. Et je pense que c'est en effet très important. This is a rapid fire question. So we're going to go to all three of our students and we're going to expect quick answers so that everybody on the call, our alumni and the friends that are on the call have the opportunity to ask a question of their own. So rapid fire, is there a course or a project that you have found to be particularly inspiring or helpful in your academic career so far or for your next step after graduation? Un projet à Glendon qui vous a tout particulièrement inspiré ou que vous croyez vous sera particulièrement utile? Darlene, I'm staying with you. Let's start there.
For me, I would have to say that it's my program, the dual degree in Business Administration and International Studies. I mean, being part of that unique program that, mixes two different fields is really interesting and really shapes the way you see the world. For me, it really helped me as an individual to have a more precise vision of what I want to do how I want the environment around me to be like, and also what I'm capable to do. And I would like to thank Doreen, but also Mr. Kirschbaum, who I know are here for this program and for being there for us and, you know, supporting us in this challenging program of ours. And yeah, one particular course I would say that inspired me the most was the social enterprise design, which actually teaches us how to mix business, but also have a purpose that will help make this world a better place. So yeah, that's all.
Merci, Darlene. En effet, cette possibilité d'être à Toronto et tout près de Lyon, bien entendu, avec le double diplôme. Moving to Jay.
For me personally, I think it has to be the certificate in public history, which I'm also taking right now.
Are you going to give more? Are you going to throw more flowers towards Audrey Pierre again?
Maybe. So the thing is, I think the main reason why I love the certificate so much is just because it gives us students an opportunity to be an intern or to take on an internship in one of the museums or one of the cultural organizations that are here in Toronto. The main reason why I love the certificate so much is just because as much as I want to become a history teacher, hopefully in the near future, I would love to go into curriculum as well. And curriculum development, just because as I stated before, as someone who was born and raised in Toronto, I never got to see my own culture represented in any of the history books. And I know a lot of individuals that I know that also go to Glendon, or even that I've met throughout my lifetime, have also stated the same thing. So it's through the certificate that I'm able to kind of understand how to better represent history in a more cohesive and concise way to make sure that people are able to actually engage, especially because, like I said before, history is a subject that everybody tends to do over summer school, especially in high school, because they want to get over with it. But they're not able to kind of understand and engage themselves in the culture or the history or the facts at all. So I hopefully in the near future, I'd be able to change that, and the certificate's helping me get there.
Merci, Jay. And back to Anna to conclude this round.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier on in the evening, I'm actually currently working on an independent research project, a part of the research apprenticeship program at Glendon, under the supervision of Professor Coates. I'll essentially be studying the complex phenomenon and the use of gender-neutral French and French across Canadian post-secondary institutions. And my hope with this project, my mandate, is that I would like to bring forward a motion to Faculty Council that will encourage, or even highly encourage, I don't want to use the word obligate, a college-wide use of gender-neutral and inclusive French in our official documentation. So that's something that I'm currently working on, and it will take the entire year, but it's, I've got on a very good foot. So I look forward to presenting it to you.
And I look forward to seeing the result of that research, and I think that's definitely a worthwhile project and worthwhile objective. So this concludes at least my own questions. I have plenty of further questions that I could ask, but I think I will throw it back to Mireille to work through potentially questions from our guests.
Great, merci Ian. Just wow, everyone. I hope you're enjoying the presentation as much as I am. Jay, I think you and your colleagues on the panel have given us a few new quotes to add to the roster of quotes we might be using in future. I've noted a few, and I'll bring them up as we go through. So we do have some questions in the chat, and our first one, akin to our international nature at Glendon, comes from an alumnus who's coming to us from Brazil. Bonjour Ross, merci pour la question. Donc la première question au panel est: est-ce que la COVID a présenté des opportunités pour travailler ou étudier différemment? So has the COVID pandemic given you opportunities to work or study differently? And let's put that one to Jay first and see what you can share with us. And then if the other two panelists have something to add, we can let you jump in.
That's actually a pretty tough question, just because there's pros and cons that have come to me as a student, especially students kind of separately, but also pros and cons of being a student leader. Zoom has now become my best friend. Every single time I'm either meeting up with friends, doing something for class or meetings, Zoom is kind of the go-to place that we go to now. I feel like it has the pros that kind of come with all of this is that you're now at home, so you're not kind of running around trying to get from one place to another. As someone who used to commute, I don't have to worry about the TTC making me late or subway delays or traffic on Eglinton because that subway is taking forever to build. But jokes aside, I feel like because of those pros, I was able to take on a lot more, especially in terms of leadership opportunities and kind of working with individuals to ensure that, you know, we're trying to make that safe and inclusive environment at Glendon, regardless of whether we're online or not. So that's really for me.
Great. Anna, Darlene, vous voulez ajouter quelque chose?
Yeah, I agree with Jay. I also took on a lot more, not in terms of course load, but in terms of engagement opportunities that I think I have the time for right now. And it's a diverse range of engagement opportunities as well. It's not the same type of, I mean, I am kind of doing a lot of the same things that I did last year and during my first year. A lot of things this year that are very innovative and that are really taking, you know, that have that virtual approach that I personally think we are going to take on with us even after this pandemic. We learn a lot of things in this pandemic that I think are going to stick with us and that should stick with us. I understand Jay's kind of friendship with Zoom. I have the same I have the same relationship, and there is, you know, Zoom fatigue is definitely real. I think that everyone has been feeling it so far, and I'm a student, I'm saying that, but I can't even imagine the administration who's probably on there 24/7. We really, you know, recognize and acknowledge and appreciate all the work that, you know, the Glendon administration has been doing over the pandemic and obviously way before then. So yeah, it's just a diverse type of engagement and much more. And there's obviously a lot of stuff that can't be done right now. You know, I would go to Frost Library with my friends to do homework and to kind of chat between the bookshelves when we're not allowed to. But other than that, we can't really do that right now. So we've been kind of like Jay, depending on Zoom and depending on these virtual kind of platforms to really foster and to keep that community, that sense of community and friendship strong.
I'm glad you mentioned keeping community strong. That's what we're doing here today. Darlene, quelque chose à ajouter?
Yeah, for me, it's really like Jay and Anna. As a student, Zoom is not my friend. I don't ever think they've been friends. And but as a leader and someone who has ambitions, it has really been a great opportunity for me to understand the potential that I have, but also to take a new type of engagement, as Anna said. You know, beyond being the president of a club, I'm also working on hiring Black scholars at Glendon, and it also helps me to work on more on personal side on my self-discipline, because, you know, it's easy with Zoom to be tempted to stay in your bed, to eat all day. But it's really important to keep in mind that having that vision and having those opportunities that are being created by the need for true leadership really helps.
That's so true. Pandemic snacking is a whole other session. OK, prochaine question de ma collègue Alison Stewart. Premièrement pour Darlene et le reste du panel. Que pourrons-nous, les administrateurs, administratrices et le corps professoral faire pour aider nos étudiants avec l'enseignement et l'engagement dans le monde virtuel? How can we help you better to navigate the virtual world? So we've talked about Zoom, but is there something you wish we had done by this middle of November so far? Let's start with Darlene and we'll go around.
I personally would say maybe consulting more the students, because that's something that I have noticed as a student, but also with my friends, that everybody has been surprised with the way this year has been going. And as much as professors have tried their best to make it more comfortable for both them and us, I just feel like sometimes it has been difficult for both of, you know, the students and the professor to reach that common ground of everybody reaching that place of comfort when, you know, it's easy now to be stressed with the work that you have to do as a student to be stressed because it's a pandemic outside. You can really go out and maybe trying to give a space to students to express themselves and their struggles. Maybe that would help also inspire Glendon administration to find new ways to interact with the students. And when it comes to first years, maybe, because as someone who's been at Glendon for a couple of years, I know the faces of Glendon administration, but maybe for them as well to feel a little bit more included and heard, find a way to present to them who is Glendon, who are the people who are part of Glendon, make their life, try to make their life, the university experience easier.
Those are some very thoughtful suggestions. Merci. Jay, Anna, do you want to add anything?
I guess I can add something really quickly. So I feel like I completely agree with Darlene's points. I feel like having those consultations with students are really important just to make sure that they're doing okay. And I feel like, as Anna said before, Zoom burnout is really a thing. I think reading week really helped me re-energize and get used to it again, just because at a point I was on Zoom for almost 12 hours a day. Or even Moodle sometimes I'm on for 12 hours a day. So I feel like making sure that those breaks are available for students, either through professors or even it would be great if Glendon themselves could kind of, I know Glendon's already doing this, but kind of just talk more about how to take care of yourself during a pandemic. I feel like everybody's always concerned about, okay, well, make sure you're eating right, make sure you're working out, health-wise overall, physically, there's a lot of promotion of that, but there's not a lot of promotion of mental health. And making sure that students are doing okay internally. But I do know that I think it was yesterday, correct me if I'm wrong, but there was one workshop that OSA did post about. And I feel like continuing with those was really important. But also some shameless promotion, because I know Anna can join me on this. The Glendon tournaments, I was on the committee to help advise for how to kind of have it programmed for this year. I know Eric Mazen is here somewhere. I can't see. Yep, there he is. So I feel like it's the conversations of, well, how do we bring a community together in the middle of a pandemic? And I feel like that's one of the main reasons why there are so many clubs that kind of started up again, because students were kind of vying for that communication, vying for that connection community, because students know that at the end of the day, you're not going to make it through university by yourself. There's always going to be those friends who are going to support you either academically or emotionally. They're going to be there for you throughout the 4 years. And I feel like it's the creation of those communities that really impacts the pandemic as a whole, and kind of making sure that, that Glendon's surviving, for lack of a better term. And Glendon isn't just surviving as an institution, but also as a community of leaders, but also a community of academics. So yeah.
Anna?
I think that it's we shouldn't expect, and it's pretty impossible to get everything right during this time, right? This is the first time that we've all been experiencing a pandemic, right? It's not something that you experience every day, right? So we're definitely learning from it, and I think that a lot of recognition and acknowledgement should go to the administration for all of their work. There's obviously, like I said, lots of things that can be improved and ameliorated, but at the end of the day, like the work that and the tireless efforts of people like Audrey, Colin, Ian, the Office of Student Affairs, like it's an incredible amount of work, and it oftentimes, in my opinion, goes undervalued. It's undermined. So yeah, I guess this is just a little way to say thank you. Something that maybe you don't hear as often as you. And for me, it is about that consultation process with students that Darlene mentioned. And the breaks also that Jay alluded to. But for me, it's also just to remember to be compassionate and to be empathetic during this time. There's so many things that are happening in people's lives that nobody knows about unless you're brave enough or you're willing to explicitly state it. So you have no idea what is going on in the background of someone's life, and the panorama of what we call our the personal sphere of our lives. So really, have compassion for people. That would be my my kind of piece of advice, and I think that all of you probably already do. But students, it's very difficult time for everyone, and students are not an exception to that. And there are many things that we go through that we're kind of just forced into. We don't have an experience, and we're kind of made to think on the fly. So we learn a lot kind of with these experiences, these evolving experiences, and there's a lot of recognition that needs to be given to a lot of people in the Glendon community. So again, thank you, and you're all doing a great job.
That's so nice to hear. You know, I think that listening and empathy bears repeating again and again in different contexts. From a peer point of view, you to your other colleagues in your classes, in your courses that you're working on projects with, and those of us who work in the administration, towards our students, towards our colleagues, towards our community. We definitely don't know what's going on behind the Zoom background, which is getting ready for dinner in my house, but that's the beautiful part of this, right? I mean, before Zoom backgrounds, I would have never known that, and you would have never known that. So we actually have a chance to get to know each other in a different way. So we're coming close to the end. I have time for one more question. And I just want to add that, you know, I think this is a great opportunity for us to chat and talk. So if you do want to say something to the panel, feel free to put it in the chat, or if you want to make a comment as part of the audience. We have about 9 minutes left before we're going to wrap up, so feel free. So la prochaine question de mon collègue Pascal Arsenault est diplômé de Glendon. Une question pour le panel. Quelles sont vos attentes envers Glendon après votre graduation? Other than showing off your diploma, of course, how might you leverage your Glendon experience? So maybe looking ahead, post-pandemic, we're back to the new, whatever that might be, normal. And what's next for you? And how do you think you're going to leverage your Glendon experience? Let's start with Jay.
Ooh, that actually is a pretty tough question, just because there's so much that you can do. But I guess for me personally, I'm really hoping that once I graduate in about 3 to 4 years, after I complete both of my degrees and all the certificates, I'm hoping to potentially go into a master's in history or a master's in public history, just because I wanted to find ways to engage the community a lot in terms of different historical aspects, a lot of different historical cultures, and kind of just learning more about world history as a whole. And then it's because of, in all shamelessness, the Certificate of Public History and the History Department, they've really been setting me up to kind of get towards that stage, especially because there was the 1615 Introduction to World History course, and I was able to get a huge understanding, or basic understanding, kind of just how the world has gotten to where we are today. So I'm hoping through all of that, I'd be able to kind of reach my next goal of potentially getting a master's, but at the end of the day, as a potential high school teacher, I'll be taking all of the skills that I've learned and hopefully being able to implement them into the high school classrooms and kind of creating a new experience for future history students.
That's great to hear. Darlene?
Pour moi, j'ai pas forcément beaucoup d'attentes de la part de Glendon. Si ce n'est en fait de continuer à supporter, comme vous le faites, les alumni, à apporter le même niveau justement de sens de communauté qu'on vit en fait sur le campus en tant que undergrad student. Après Glendon, moi je suis censée donc graduer en avril 2021. Donc c'est ma dernière année à Glendon. Je suis déjà un peu triste et déjà un peu nostalgique, mais je veux poursuivre avec mon master, donc plutôt dans le côté International Studies. Et fun fact, en fait, avant d'arriver à Glendon, je voulais travailler en finance. Et avec le double diplôme, du coup, l'expérience que j'ai eue avec les cours, j'ai décidé de m'orienter vers quelque chose qui me passionnait un peu plus. Je me suis trouvé en fait une passion pour tout ce qui est lié donc à l'équité, gender studies et justice sociale. Du coup, je compte m'orienter dans ça pour pouvoir travailler dans des organismes internationaux ou des organismes non gouvernementaux. Donc voilà.
Wow. Anna?
Great question. Like Jay said, you all have many difficult questions for us, but I think we're really enjoying answering them. So thank you for sending them in. For me, after Glendon, this has kind of been like a little debate that I've had with myself in terms of, what do I want to do after, because it is a pretty massive decision. For me, I think that after I am in the concurrent education program like Jay, so, it is anticipated that I am going to teach, history, Canadian history or French is my preferred 2 subjects. But I want to do much more than that. I want to essentially use the experience that I'll be, obtaining through teaching to be able to serve as a civil servant. And basically, probably more specifically in Ontario. So let's say my dream job would be, at this current stage, would be to work at the Ministry of Education. Maybe not so much in the role of a minister, but in the background, making sure that we're keeping our education system strong and that we're not, experiencing the type of issues that we're experiencing currently. So to have that experience, I think is purely, very essential to be able to assume a role that requires, some sort of degree of experience in education in particular, and that I will gain through teaching. I have also thought about getting a master's, but it's, I guess just the topic is a little unknown to me right now. So I am working on that project that I talked about with the research apprenticeship program. So that is maybe like a mini master's, if you want to think about it like that. But other than that, I think I would like to gain a career and to really do something that I love. I think everyone has that motivation and passion, and I would like to do something that kind of integrates two of my biggest passions, which are education and politics. So that's it for me. And I think just in terms of Glendon, I think they should, just the administration, Glendon community in general, should continue to do what it's doing, promoting a diverse, inclusive, equitable society or community, shall I say, and truly maintain its bilingualism, to really again, sorry, there's just so many things to also really motivate students and encourage students to be more engaged as students, and not just go to school for academic reasons, only go to their courses and leave. There's so much more, there's so much potential at Glendon and just university life in general that that we should really start benefiting more from. So
thank you, Anna. Merci. We have a poll to launch, so the team is just going to set that up in the background, and I will queue up our esteemed interim principal, Ian Roberge, to wrap us up with a few closing words. Ian, are you there?
Je suis là. Premièrement, pendant que vous répondez à cette question de sondage, moi, je vais profiter du moment pour vous remercier d'être venu nous rejoindre en ce début de soirée. Ça a été un grand plaisir de vous retrouver. J'ai beaucoup aimé l'activité dans le chat. Je pense que vous aviez besoin de connecter les uns aux autres. Donc, merci, c'était très, très beau à voir. Merci à Anna, Darlene, Jay, you guys, we've stated it before, are incredible. Again, you all hit it out of the park tonight. And I've talked a little bit about how you guys could provide a ray of sunshine and what really are difficult times, and you've done just that in terms of providing some inspiration for everyone who participated in this event. So thank you very much for your all of what you've said tonight, and there were some kind words in there. They're way exaggerated, but the sentiments are appreciated. À Darlene, Jay, Anna, merci, bonne continuation, bon courage pour le reste du semestre. Merci à tout le monde de nous avoir rejoints, et je renvoie la balle pour conclure à Mireille.
Merci, Yann. Well, thank you so much, everyone. It's been such a lovely hour, just under an hour with you. I hope we'll keep in touch, keep connected. You can follow us on our Glendon alumni channels, as well as all the Glendon campus channels. We'd love to keep this conversation going. If you have ideas or comments, please feel free. Un grand merci encore au panel et à Principal par intérim Ian Roberge pour sa participation ce soir. Je vous souhaite une belle soirée. Un grand merci à tout le monde et au revoir et à la prochaine, j'espère bientôt.